Welcome to Hack the Real Size podcast with Heather, Ashley, and myself, Kira, where we like to delve into the personal journeys of people in the entertainment industry with a little bit of cheeky fun. And today's guest, we are super lucky to have Sam Valentine. So Sam is a Kansas-born actress who is based in LA, and she has got this awesome podcast called One Break Actress, which is fantastic for action advice and things. So definitely check it out. Of course, we'll always put the links after we publish this. And she's also, she's done loads of work actually, so check out her IMDb, but probably best known for Film Followed, where she got a Best Supporting Actress nomination at the Burbank Film Festival. Okay, so the format of it is I will just start with some icebreaker questions. I mean, the people who listen to your podcast are going to know you really well anyway, but often when we have people on here, people don't know the real them. They know the characters that they play, or they haven't got much of a social media following, so they don't get to interact with their fans very often. Mm-hmm. So we like to just break it down a little bit, get to know you a little bit better. And then Ashley is going to talk to you about where you started, how you got to where you are. And then Heather's going to talk about advice and things and more specific questions.
Awesome. I'm so good.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Start a nice, easy one. What's your favorite cocktail?
So I actually just recently put a pause on drinking, which is like kind of it's the first time I've ever done it. I haven't had a drink in like 50, 60 days or something like that. Oh. Just to see like what I'm just redefining my relationship with alcohol, figuring that all out. So right now I drink a shit ton of tea. Like I drink so much tea, and you'd as a British person would probably be disgusted at the teas I drink because they're all like probably really shitty, like Celestial Seasonings, Candy Cane Lane, and like cinnamon apple. Yeah, no, it's appalling, but I love them. But when I was drinking and when I am drinking, I love a spicy margarita, and I need to figure out how to make that taste without alcohol if I choose to continue this journey, because I love them.
There must be. There's like alcoholic free everything nowadays, isn't there?
Yeah. There's a whole store in LA now that just sells like non-alcoholic alcohol products. Like wine and yeah, it's in Silver Lake. It makes perfect sense.
Okay, we don't have one of them over here, but I feel that we should, because that would be quite useful. A whole store dedicated to it. So on that vein, is there an alcohol that you can no longer drink after a bad night? FYI, mine is Sambuca. Disgusting.
Ooh. Oh, that's a bummer because I love Sambuca.
Really?
Yeah. I am not a big fan of Chardonnay, just because I feel like it's drunk in like copious amounts, and like I don't like things in large amounts, like the Costco stores and the big plus stores. It disgusts me. So that's not my favorite, but I do not really like vodka. Vodka is not, I think you got to finesse the shit out of it. Like you got to like mixology it, or like have it soaked in some really cool fruit, or like really play with it, because vodka itself it's just like liquid heat. My dad works in the alcohol business, so I've been tasting things since I was like absolutely barely 21. And vodka, I feel like, is one of the ones that I'm like typically disappointed in, unless it's a dirty martini, in which case I just like salt. There's a theme.
That's a good theme. That's not a bad one. No. If you could be any superhero, DC or Marvel, we're not going to say which one, who would you be? Or would you just make a completely new one up?
I mean, I would love my own franchise, so I'd love to make up a new one. But I have a lot of love in my heart for Brie Larson's Captain Marvel. I feel like she's done a lot of good for that. So she'd be, I have to figure out how to hang it. This is my vision board from last year, and I need to replace some of the pictures because for those listening to the podcast, it's behind me, but because some of them have actually come to light, but there's a picture of Brie Larson, because I really, really, really want to do a superhero spot at some point.
Oh, that's great. That would be amazing. I mean, I love the idea of playing a superhero, and then I realized that I'm close to 40 and probably about 2 stone overweight. So, but you know, there could be. No.
Did you watch?
Sadly, there are.
No, there's not. Did you just watch? You got to watch Peacemaker. That was just like, it's John Cena's show on HBO, and it's like the Justice League type of superheroes, and it's so outlandish, and like there's no rules for superheroes in that universe. Like they're messy and they're complicated, and like his dad is like an extremely like privileged white male racist superhero, because like there's no rules. So I firmly believe that you can be a superhero.
So let's get that one written. Well, we always talk about this, don't we? Doing a skit with like elderly superheroes.
We do. We talk about it all the time.
Oh,
like what happens after their prime days, like when they do have families. Like,
have you seen The Boys on Amazon?
I haven't.
Yeah.
It's all about like living in a superhero world where superheroes aren't necessarily like good people, and some of them have to retire, and some of them have to like, some of them are really shitty like superstars.
Horrible
It's
people.
a phenomenal show. It's also good. They're just like all these superhero shows. I'm clearly married to a man who loves superheroes.
That's going on my watch list. I need new shows to watch.
That's not a bad thing at all.
The Boys is great. The Boys is great.
It's good. It is good. Do you have any useless talents?
Do I have any useless talents? I know I have an answer for this. I am really good at removing blackheads from people's noses. I'm really good at tweezing.
That's not useless though.
It's actually like I need to not do it anymore because I'm like, ooh, like I could spend like an hour in like one of those mirrors, like squeezing blackheads. And my face is like totally fucked up. So that's a talent. And I also am really good at painting kids' nails. Like, when you babysit or like hang out with kids, or you guys all have kids, like they have the tiniest little nails. And like, usually it just looks like a shit show. Like I was a babysitter for 15 years and I am bomb at painting little kids' nails. I can barely do my own, but I can do little kids.
That is actually an underrated talent. I think there's like a business plan in that.
Yeah, but but they move so quickly that like you paint them and then 5 seconds later they like stick their hand in the cookie jar and you're like, well, that was a huge waste of time. But they're gonna sit there and let them dry? No.
Oh no, my 3-year-old goes around like this for like an hour afterwards. And you're like, you can touch things, Fina, and she's like, my nails.
She's better than I am. I'm like, I think I could paint my nails and then take a shower in the next 30 minutes. This is a great idea.
I'll paint my nails and then I'm like to my husky dog, I'm like, oh, you're such a good girl. And then I'm like, oh, fudge.
I know. It's like gel manicure or bust. And I just haven't shelled out for my own gel system at some point.
I paint my nails right before I go to bed and then I sleep with my hands like this for a while. And it works.
Really?
Yeah.
You paint nails before you go to bed?
I would have it everywhere.
No, I can, because by the time that by the time I start rolling around, obviously I must be in a deeper sleep. So I probably get a good like 20-30 minutes of stationary hand position before.
That's amazing. That's a skill.
I know. There you go.
That's
my resume was shit, but you know what?
Yeah. No,
I could have that talent. What is the weirdest thing you've ever eaten?
What is the weirdest thing I've ever eaten? I have eaten. I think crickets is probably an odd one. There was a period of time where cricket protein was very poppin'. It like was the new, like hemp protein
powder.
It was the new, because it's super sustainable, because harvesting crickets is a very sustainable thing. So I had a cricket protein bar. It just tasted like another protein bar. I think that was probably one. I mean, I've traveled and like had I'll taste almost anything that someone gives me. But the cricket protein bar was like, all right, this is a choice. We are doing this. And I don't know if the crickets are going to happen. I haven't heard anything about it since.
I don't think that's made its way out east yet. I think it's probably stuck in like Colorado, and people are deciding, like, is it going to move past us or is it going to trickle back down through?
It needs its own like TikTok sensation to become a thing. Like how like the girls are like, I have my like hot girl morning walk and my juice and my whatever. Like it needs like that kind of PR, and then I think it would take off.
Yeah, like what they eat in the day. Like there needs to be somewhere like, oh, I start my day with my water and lemon and my celery juice and my cricket bar. There we go. Cricket bars, come here if you need influencers.
Yeah, there you go.
I do it. It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad at all.
I mean, I've just said that I'm old and fat, so I don't think they're going to use me to endorse it.
Oh,
but you never know.
We need to get all the audiences. It's fine.
It would definitely be a niche, wouldn't it? What is? I'm pretty sure crickets isn't the answer, but what is your favorite smell?
Ooh, this is going to be a weird thing, but my dogs all have a very distinct smell. And I'm such a dog mom. I'm obsessed with my dogs. And my oldest dog, Willow, I've had her for 10 years. she was like my partner in crime in LA. Like she's my main bitch. And she has such a distinctive smell. And I like bury my nose in her little feet because I wish I tell my husband. Yeah, I know. It's super gross. We live like in Hollywood. It's disgusting. But I just love it so much. I think she smells like a dream. And I asked my husband, I was like, if you ever found a place that would make me a candle that smelled like willow, I would buy 500 of them. I love the way she smells.
So
you probably feel it, don't you?
You could do that.
Well, dog feet smell like Fritos, don't they?
It like a dirty Frito, but Willow has like has another like scent on top of that. Like all our dogs smell different. Like we have Willow smells like this, like it's just such a dense little willow smell. And then our little boy Solo smells like river water. No matter what, he smells like the Mississippi. I don't know what it is. He smells like dirty water, and no matter how often we bathe him. And then our little epileptic Chihuahua smells a little like fish. I don't know what it is. They bathe them, we brush their teeth, but they're perfect, and I'm obsessed, and I don't want to change it. I don't want to get their teeth cleaned. I love them.
In a fight to the death of Disney princesses, who's the last one standing?
Ooh. Does Zelda belong in the Disney princess universe? Because I feel like she'd be the winner. Who are our Disney princesses? Well, Sleeping Beauty, they didn't really give her a bag of tricks, so she's out.
She'd be sleeping in the corner.
Yeah, Snow White has a small army, so she has that going for her. Who else we got? I mean, Alice in Wonderland, she's not really a princess, but she was always my favorite, but I think she's just a little crazy. And God, who else?
Well, you got the more modern day ones. Yeah, you got Ariel, you've got Elsa, you've got Moana. I guess technically she could be a princess. You've got
Mulan would probably be a badass.
Oh yeah,
she would be.
Oh, she's probably the most. I think Mulan. Mulan or Pocahontas, because like they both had to like get their shit together and live off the land. And I feel like they would probably, they faced the most adversity. So I would say one of those two would probably win.
I like that. That's a good one. So we got
like really think that out.
No, it's good. It's good. Preempting these things. We've got two questions that we like to ask all our guests. First one is, if you could remake any film using just the cast of the Muppets and one human actor, what film would it be, and who would the human actor be?
Oh my God. Okay.
We are so hard hitting, I know.
So let's remake Titanic with the cast of the Muppets. You can just picture them. You can picture the old men like in the balcony scene and like, oh, it'd be so good. And one human person.
Mm-hmm.
I think the guy that Rose is supposed to marry, that like, because he's like little slimy, but like handsome, and like you don't know if Trips like him or not. He talking to puppets as like kind of a dick would be phenomenal. Now I'm mad. Now I want to see that movie and I'm not going to see it. The Muppets, I tried to explain to my husband the day. I was like, oh, the Muppets Take Manhattan is on TV. Can we please watch it? And he was like, that literally never. I was like, no, you don't understand. This movie is incredible. It's incredible. Now I really want to watch it. Maybe I'll do it tonight.
Do it. Pull rank. So would you have the Jack and Rose characters? Would they be standard Kermit and Miss Piggy, or would you go out there?
I think that would be great. I think that would be solid. Yeah. Can you picture Piggy? Like, I want you to draw me like one of your French girls. Like that would be. It's perfect.
Or if she's like on, at the end where she like throws him into the water, but have like the biggest door and then Miss Piggy on it.
So much room.
Clearly he can get on there. Just
she's like, there's no room. Sorry. Like, it's like,
she does the and shoves him off.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes. Also, all of us are hired. That's so good.
Excellent. That would be amazing. And the last question from me is, realistically, how long do you think you'd survive in a zombie apocalypse? You've thought about it, let's be honest.
I have definitely, who hasn't? We have so much content about this stuff. I am resourceful, but I am also very fear adverse. So I think that I could last a while because of not just myself, but my husband. Now, I'm going to tell you something that he's probably going to overhear and be like, please don't tell people that, but let's do it anyway. So in his wallet, he has a tiny, tiny, tiny little piece of folded up paper that's like this big. And it is directions to getting out of Los Angeles from our home to the mountains where we have some family, and how to do it without using a GPS. So it's street by street, and without using any highways or freeways. So if we had to do it, we could use these side streets and get out of town. So
like I have to do that now. Like I have to have.
Doesn't it feel important? If you live in a major city, it's like, oh, well, if there's a huge apocalypse and we lose like electricity and we can't use GPS and we have to get out of town, we don't know any way other than the freeways. So knowing little side streets to get yourself out of the situation you're in, I was like,
genius.
This is I need you in my life. Like, follow me around, please. Like, and meanwhile, I'm like starting tortilla fires in the oven. Like I'm a mess. And he's like the rock of like, this makes sense.
Right now, everyone is pausing this episode to go Google, and they're making their own set of directions.
Are you walking? Or are you using a car? I mean, because I can imagine getting out of LA.
We have it via a car, but it's all side streets. So if we had to walk, we could. Yeah. Yeah.
Or go on horseback.
Really hard. Or go. Why
I
not?
mean, so many horses in LA.
So we'd have to go to Griffith Park and steal one of the ones that just does trail rides for children. But if we had to, we could make it work. But I think it's really resourceful and really smart to have on hand when you live in a big city. And like, I don't know. I think it's like,
so what prompted him to do that?
He's the most like find the security of the situation person ever. He studied, he did a lot of martial arts training. So he's very big on like when we go out, he's like, I want you to not interlace your fingers when we hold hands and like on a big street, because the thing to do when you are scared is that you fear grip no matter what. So if like someone came to like mug us, the instant thing to do is like, I would fear grip just without knowing it, because it's a human reflex. And he's like, I want you to have like a regular hold on my hand so I could slide my hand out and I could like save us if I needed to. Like he's always just been like, yeah. And he kind of looks like Superman. So it's like, I got really, really nailed this.
Can we meet your husband, please?
Yeah, I'll call him in. He's gonna be like, God damn it, don't
husband.
I'll call him in for us in a little bit.
Yeah, that'll be great. Yeah.
Oh, that is brilliant. Well, we've had an amazing insight into your life and the awesomeness of your husband. I mean, I thought my husband was good because we've got like crossbows and axes and machetes and stuff, but he has
your set too.
Yeah, but he hasn't like he's obviously not prepared to like fight anyone in the street for me. I don't know. That's the point. We've been married for a while. And we have children. We don't hold hands. So that's probably why. That's probably why we've never had the fear grip conversation, because we just don't touch.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, we've been married. We've been together 8.5 years now. So it's like, I'm like, should we hold hands right now?
It's coming
later.
A couple more years. Well, thank you so much, Sam, for indulging my ridiculousness and slightly more intellectual. I'll pass you on to Ashley.
So we like to start off our podcast with where you are from and where you grew up.
Yeah. So I am from all over the Midwest. I was born in Kansas, but then when I was 4 or 5, we moved to Missouri, and then I moved to Oklahoma, and then back to Missouri, and then I went back to Illinois, and then I went to Missouri for school, and then basically just like if a tornado hit it, I lived there. I was in all of these small cities all the time. My father grew up working in the alcohol business, and my mother was a librarian. And so between the two of them, we really have all of our bases covered. And we just moved from like small town outside of a big town to the next small town outside of a big town. And I always went to public schools, all that good stuff. And I went to school for acting, which was a big, big, hard thing to do, because I had only acted in like high school plays. And so to go to school for it was a big ask and a big jump of like, I think I can do this. It's like, it's so funny because it feels so outlandish, but now I've been doing it for so long that it feels like, of course, this was the thing I did. There was no other thing that made sense. I tried to go to school to teach acting, and then I took all the acting classes, and they were like, now you have to take all the teacher classes. And I was like, oh, something's wrong. So I switched my major 3 times. And by the time I landed on acting, I was like, this is the right thing to do. So graduated with a theater performance degree, and I moved to LA within a week of my graduation. Wow. Yeah.
Can you talk about that? I mean, because me and Heather were on the East Coast, and obviously Kira's in the UK, so love to hear that kind of process and story.
Yeah, I knew that I wanted to do film and television and commercials. And I knew that the place where it was most known for, this was 10 and a half years ago, almost 11 years ago, was Los Angeles. We didn't have these markets like Atlanta or Santa Fe or Chicago or anything that we do now. And of course, New York was always there, but New York felt like the scariest thing in the whole wide world because it was so different from any life I had. I grew up in these tiny towns. I, had never had such a small apartment. I'd never paid so much money to live anywhere, and they had no trees. Like New York just felt so far from me that I was like, well, LA, I'm kind of a California girl. I always felt like I was one. I was like, I like that it's a pretty good weather. I like that there's like a lot of trees and outdoor stuff. And I was like, this just seems to make sense. And also, it's like the hub of film and television. Now, I would probably tell people to move to Atlanta if they want to start this, but it was.
There's like no more.
That's where I live. I live outside of Atlanta, so I'm like,
you're like, no more actors, please. Yeah, it's like such a hot spot, but yeah, so I moved to Los Angeles, and I spent the last 3 months of my college time planning my move. So we did a senior showcase in LA, so I was able to meet some people out here and actually visit. Did that mean I knew where I wanted to live? No, I was such a mess. I had no idea. There's so many different areas. There's so many different types. You could live. It's like moving state to state based on like a 5-mile radius here. And it was so overwhelming, and I decided I'd spend some time doing it. So I spent time on like roommates.com and finding a place to live and securing that. I had never seen this place. It was really far outside of town. It was not convenient, but it was a good rent, and the girl seemed normal, and she's great. Her name was Nikki. She was phenomenal. I got really lucky that my first roommate was like a real human person, not a crazy basket case. And, I knew it was going to be hard, and I knew it was going to be scary, but I've always kind of done the hardest thing. I always have kind of leaned into like, what would people think I can't do? Or what is like the scary thing? And why do I think it's scary? Is it scary because it's new, or is it scary because it's actually scary? And I'm a middle child, so I'm classically bred to be a Los Angeles actress. I love attention, and I love to do things that other people aren't doing. And so I spent my first week here. I ate oatmeal and peanut butter for almost every meal because it was so cheap, and I could buy a lot of it, and I could eat it and not be scared of running out of groceries. And I was so afraid of driving on the highways because I'd heard so much about LA traffic, and I'd never driven on big, huge freeways before. And I was so scared of the traffic that I would carry around an extra gas canister of gas because I thought that you would like run out of a full tank of gas on highways. Like I had no idea what to do. I remember the first time I had to pay for parking in a parking structure because I'd never paid for parking before. And I was like, I can't believe this is $10. Like that's all my money. I had my car towed at one point, like everything. It was such a culture shock, regardless of the fact that it like wasn't as scary, quote unquote, as New York. And I was like, I don't understand how people, or how I am ever going to afford to pay my rent and go out to dinner and have clothes and like have a life. I don't understand how everyone does this. And I spent the first 3 years here just like haphazardly throwing myself about and trying to figure out how the fuck anyone is doing this and doing it well. And then the longer you're somewhere, the more you just accommodate to it. And I love LA. I don't know if I'll ever not live here, or at least have a place here. I love this town. I do.
So you talked about like moving there and kind of figuring out just the different culture shock basically of living there. How did you go about like finding jobs and auditioning or potentially getting an agent?
Yeah. So this is, like I said, 10, 11 years ago. So Craigslist was where I found jobs. I got on Craigslist and I applied for every single job that I could find that paid a decent hourly amount. And I did like half of the ones I got offered because I was like, why not? I have no like home responsibilities. I can work 4 or 5 jobs. So I went from hostessing to bartending. For a while, I sold tube shots in clubs. That was as horrific as it sounds. I worked in retail. I did every single job because I was like, I just need more money. And I came here with some savings. It was like 2 months worth of rent. Like it's not even, people always say that they're like, I want to save up money before I come to LA. And I'm like, that's great. But just know that you just need to kind of get here and figure it out, because I don't know what amount of money makes it okay to live in LA, especially now. The places around us, a 1-bedroom apartment is $2,500 a month. So I don't know how you prepare to have the right amount of money and how you can make that money. Like I couldn't make the money I make anywhere else, I don't think, because you just get paid more per hour here because the cost of living is higher. Mostly, I say that I should asterisk that with I am a very privileged cisgender white woman, and so I'm playing with a different set of cards than other people are. But nonetheless, it was still a really tough transition period, and let alone I was just trying to survive. And then I was like, and also I need to be an actor and I need to be signed by an agency. I need to be auditioning. And I tell actors all the time now, I'm like, don't try to do both initially. You need to like get your head above water first. You need to find a home base. You need to find your grocery store. You need to find like a job. It doesn't have to be a forever job, but just a money job. You need to figure out how to park your car. And then we can talk about the acting stuff, because nobody wants to work with an actor who doesn't know where their head's at half the time. Like you have to solidify and like figure out your life, and then we can jump into that pool. So once I started working at this restaurant, and I remember I had been looking on like Craigslist and stuff for acting things for a couple of weeks. I was like, I don't understand, like, where do people get acting jobs? And I met a girl named Ashley Platts, who's also an amazing actress, and she's been such a mentor to me. And I said, I don't understand how you get acting jobs. Like, where do you get acting jobs? Like, I went to college for this and I just came here and no one told me what to do. And now there's a lot more conversations about that, thank God. But I was so blind and no one was helpful. And she was like, oh, well, you join this website and you join this website and you need headshots and a resume and eventually you get footage. I was like, oh my God, steps to follow? Yes, please, please. Yeah. So I joined Actors Access, which is the acting side of Breakdown Services, and I joined LA Casting, and I also joined a couple others. I'm sure that are probably useless now, and I just started submitting myself for auditions, and I thought I needed an agent, so I also started submitting myself to agencies. I was not ready to have an agent. I was not ready to take on representation. I needed to just spend time getting to know the business and figuring out where my place was at, in the business. And I tried to do both things at the same time. And I think, negatively affected my mental health in that during that time period, because I was like, well, I also need an agent. I need to get signed, because I was told I needed to do that. I wasn't told the actual truth, which was I needed to do that in like 2 years.
Yeah. I feel like because me myself, I just started to get into acting. It's been almost 2 years now, and I kind of feel like how you said, like you don't know necessarily how to get started, and necessarily people aren't super helpful. Like you're like, where do I go to find help of how to do this? But there is a little bit more now, but I feel like it's almost like you're in a pool and you're swimming, and all these people have like these little life, rafts, but no one's throwing them at you and you don't know how to get to them. And that's how I feel like it is becoming an actress and getting an agent. So can you talk a little bit about that process of you getting your agent and how that was?
Yeah. I mean, so I've had, I'm going to talk theatrically because that was my main goal. I just signed with my first true theatrical agent last year. So it took me 10 years to get one that was not hip pocketing me, meaning like was not just like, hey, I'll toss you a few bones and see what happens. Was not like doing me a favor, was not a manager or a commercial agent, because commercial agents are a little bit easier to get because you don't need as hefty of a resume or as much credit. And now I am in a level where I'm playing a different game. And before, I wish that I would have known that it was going to take me this long to get here. But what I've gained in that 10 years is an understanding of my casting. I know exactly what I'm doing in auditions. I know how to break down scripts. I know how to self-tape. And I wanted to do all of those things immediately. I wanted to be able to do everything correct right away. And I was so scared of looking green. I was so scared of looking green. And I wish I would have embraced it. I wish I would have said like, hi, I'm pretty green, but I'm really excited to be a part of whatever this thing is you're doing. I wish so badly, but I was so scared of looking like the odd man out, like the new girl. So I shunned myself from like being that person. And I think I lost out on some learning lessons I could have gotten earlier in my career. So having just signed with a theatrical agent last year, who I really, really love and enjoy, it's been such a game changer. But along the way, I learned all of the things that got me to her. So the reps that I had that didn't work out, the managers that I've had that didn't really provide me with much guidance, that didn't answer my emails, the commercial agent who threatened to drop me because I had bad eyebrows. Like, it's a lot of like shit I feel like that I took because I was also young. I was 22. And 22 to 32, I didn't have a theatrical agent. And instead, I spent that time growing up. And I think that's very underrated in terms of a career as an actor because it matters a lot. And I was always like looking for the next thing and trying to figure out my next step. And I sometimes wish I would have slowed down a little more and just enjoyed the process. It's very hard to find that line between like, I'm hustling and I'm working hard for the next thing. And I'm also enjoying it and taking in the moments and having a good time. Like, I still don't know where that line is. Sometimes I don't know how to, I mean, obviously it's Saturday, we're doing an interview. Like sometimes I don't know like where to turn off in order to give myself a relaxation. So I'm working really hard on that right now. And there's no rule book. Like, people can come here and they can get an agent in a month that turns out to be their forever person and it wins them an Emmy. There's just no rule book. And I think that's the hardest thing about this is that it feels like all you want to do, where as humans, we naturally compare ourselves to other people, right? We want to compare ourselves to other people in our society because that's actually how we survived, was figuring out social norms and things like that. And you can't do it in this business. You can collect ideas and tips and tricks from people, but you can't compare yourself to anyone else because everyone's ladder is so different.
Yeah. And is that kind of what made you kind of start your platform that you have, which is your Instagram page, where you give amazing advice? I think that's actually how we discovered you.
Amazing.
Because we're always looking for obviously advice on acting, but you also have a podcast as well. And so can you talk a little bit about your podcast and what you do on that?
Yeah. So I got, about 5 years into this journey of still trying to figure out what the fuck I was doing. I booked a movie that sent me to France and I was the lead in the feature and it was filming in France. And I was like, this is it. Everything's happening. I am happening. I am going to be fucking famous. Let's roll. And the movie happened and it was great. And it was a great experience. But when I came home, I had lost previously to that. I was working a full-time work from home job as a customer service person for an online health coaching school. I was really good at it. It was pretty flexible for me. And I had health insurance and I had a 401k and I was doing everything I wanted to do. And it was solid. I came home from filming in France. That job could not take me back. They had to fill my position. And so now I was unemployed and I had no health insurance and no savings. And also the film was going to be edited and worked on for the next like year or two. I had no idea when it was going to come out. And my reps were like, yeah, we'll pitch you as like a lead. You just filmed a big feature. Cool. Great. But then it was radio silence. So and everyone was giving me accolades. They were like, oh my God, like, congratulations. This is so cool. You've made it. Meanwhile, I was like crying on my floor at home because I was broke and I didn't know what to do with my free time and I wasn't getting auditions. And one day I got really fed up with it. And I was like, I'm going to write this down. I'm going to put on a blog. I'm going to start a blog. And I looked up one broke actress and the name was taken. So I made it the number one, which is funny. It was that for the first couple of years. Since then, I've been able to take the name back. But I just started writing and I was like, I want to talk about the in-between times. I want to talk about the not working because we are not working so much more than we are working. And we are not auditioning nearly as much as Instagram makes it seem like. And I noticed a trend that you would get actors on their social medias, and it would be like, oh, set life, blah, blah, blah. This is my
Booked
morning mocha.
again. That's
yes.
like my new favorite one that everybody
yes.
does. Booked.
I can't believe, I'm so grateful to be back on set. And then you would get us all in a room and there would be no audience, and actors would be like, hey, it's really quiet for me right now. Is it quiet for you? Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if I like my agent. And I'm like, holy shit, there's so much no one's talking about. Like, let's put this on a platform, because these conversations make me feel like less of a trash bag. It makes me feel like we're all going through the same thing. And we do so much of this job alone. We self-tape now completely alone, or like with one other person. We work our sides and our scripts alone. Maybe you have a coach, but we used to drive to auditions alone. We used to go into an audition room and be the only person except for the camera op and maybe the casting director if you were lucky. And we are so lonely in this job. And I was like, if we can just bridge this gap and talk about everything that makes a working actor life and not just the bookings, that to me is so much more interesting. Because I think one of the go-to lines I've always used is, I feel like most success stories are written after they happen, and I want to write mine while it's happening. So I was nervous and I was anxious about putting my story out into the world and being like, I'm not so great. How's everyone else? and then it's evolved. And it at first I was really nervous to give advice or information to anyone, because I didn't feel like I deserved to, or like I had enough credits or I could take enough space. And it's been, next month, One Broke Actress will be around for 5 years. That's and cool. It's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah. And it's cool though, because the more I decided to take up space and be an authority on my own career and perhaps add a little bit to someone else's, the better my personal career has become. It's crazy.
I mean, I like what, I think actually Heather's the one that found you and introduced you, but what I like about your Instagram and your podcast is just how real, and like how you're talking right now, the reality of it is so refreshing. Because at least when I'm starting out in this industry, I feel like you see all these people, like I said, like booked, and you just think everybody's working, and you get one big job and then it just goes into another big job and another big job. It is not like that.
No.
Like we've talked to people, and it's like one lady had a lead role on a Stars channel, and she had 94 auditions before she got her next role. And I was like, that's what I love to hear. Like, that's what I want to hear about, is the struggle, because it helps you keep going so you don't feel so alone. Sorry, that's my little rant on that. I'm going to pass it to Heather so she can kind of dive more into this platform that you've created.
Amazing. Thank you so much. That's so kind.
Yeah. I mean, I was stoked, and I think I found you because it was like one of the on Instagram, like where it says like suggested, and it was like suggested Broke Actress, and I was like, I just clicked on it. I was like, and then I like scrolled through, and I'm like, I really like your platform and what you're doing. And then I messaged like Ashley and Kieran. I'm like, I'm gonna ask her to come on the podcast. Wish me luck.
Oh, I love it. Wait, that the algorithm is working in my favor.
It
is. I mean, I know, well, for now, but give it like a month, and it's just gonna like tank again. I'm just kidding.
Totally.
So thank you for coming on, because like Ashley said, it's good to hear the in-betweens, because social media is like this curated life that you want other people to see. And when you're living that reality and you're not sharing that reality, like it does a disservice for everybody, I think. And I mean, you're not obligated to share the reality, but it's just.
No, totally. Totally. I don't think, it is what you make of it. But I think if you choose to share, to me, I think if you choose to share the highs, I'm so much more interested in your highs if you're also sharing your lows. And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to pity party it. Like, we see the people who are on there and who are like, my aunt's sister's boyfriend's husband lost his hamster today. And I'm like, all right, it's, you know what, the people I'm talking about. And I listen to a podcast called The Bitch Bible, and Jackie Schimmel calls it, what did she call it? She calls them pity princesses, or pity something. It's such a good, I gotta kind of think of it. But it's such a good phrase, because you see people who are like, I am having such a bad day, like, but here's a really hot picture of me in a bikini, and I'm like, where's the content? What are we doing? And I think there's a line that we all feel inside this, like, this is a little kitschy, and this works, and this doesn't. But when people are like, this has been a rough year, and I'm only doing okay. And then they book something. I'm like, fuck yeah. Like I love that. It's with people who are like every day is just like the sparkliest, bookiest thing. And I'm like, no, it's not. Yeah. No, it's not. I know it's not. And I think you're setting people up for an unrealistic expectation. I think that I didn't know that I was going to have, 52 auditions and I was going to book one. I didn't think that that was how it worked. And nobody was reinforcing that to me. No one gives numbers. No one gives now they kind of do. Now people are starting to talk about it a little more openly. But I feel like the lack of information in the past 8 years, 10 years has been so small. And then it makes us all feel like we're the ones who are losers. Which
like we're not doing something right. And it's not that you can't change how you look. You can't change what maybe they like or don't like about you personally.
Yeah.
You can only do your character.
Totally. And once you start to get the data on it, right? Like once you start to get like, oh, like actually last year I had 52 auditions and 4 of them were the same for the same person. Perfect. Like once you start to get past the point of, and like, this is really exciting for you, Ashley, because you said you've been doing this for 2 years. You're probably just at this point where you're starting to absorb your information and understand that there's a point you get to where you're no longer asking, am I a good actor? You're now asking, when am I going to really get seen? And that I think is the most amazing time, because when you're not questioning whether or not you're a good actor anymore, you have so much more space to do other things and have other creative moments. And, I had that question in my mind for sure. Even when I started One Broke Actress, I was wondering if I was a bad actor. And I was like, maybe I'm just fooling everyone. And everything I booked, I was like, I feel like I snuck on set. Like I tricked them into letting me be here. And letting go of that, I feel like is another phase of this business. Yeah. I think I took your question far in a different direction.
No, it's good.
No, it's good. And that's why we like having like these organic conversations, because it kind of goes in its own little direction. And that's where we find like the real gems, for our listeners. But one thing we did want to ask you was your self-tape process, because there's so many things out there. Use props, do not use props, max of 2 takes, do more than 2 takes. Like, what is your personal process and that you have found that works for you?
Yeah. So it's different for every project, I feel like, in terms of what I need to do to get ready for it, and then what I need to do to actually film it. So if anybody's watching a video version of this, behind me is that door. On the back of that door, I hang my lights and my curtain. So when it's time to actually self-tape, I close that door, pull out the lights, and the curtain goes across this closet area, which is nice because it keeps it up all tucked away. That is I think, such a huge hurdle for people is having a self-tape setup you can do in like 2 to 3 minutes, and having good lighting and having good sound without even having to think about it, like taking the technicalities off your hands, is something I think people should practice more. I think you should get on websites like We Audition and just read lines over a self-tape that doesn't matter, because having that framework in place, we don't have to think about it. It's like, that's the beauty of showing up on set, right? Is because we just are the actor and they dress us and they make us like, it's fun to just show up and do your work. So taking the technical aspect out of it is a big thing that I recommend. And then in terms of a piece, I mean, for the actual tape, my thing is, if it serves the story that you are working on and serves your character, I don't understand why you wouldn't do it. I do not. And this is because I also study with Sarah Mornell, who's actually based in Atlanta now, but I studied with her for a long time when she was in LA, and now we still talk and work together often. And if you are in a scene and you have a fucking cup in your hand in the scene, please, for the love of God, have a cup in your hand. Like, if you are...
They're like, yes, mama. Yes. No, we're laughing because I just helped Ashley. She did an audition tape a couple of days ago, and her character had a glass, and she's like, should I have the glass? Should I not have the glass? Should I
have the fucking glass? Ashley, have the glass.
I was supposed to choke on drinking, and I was like, no, because the way I have been trained, most of the people are like, do not have a prop. Like, you can hold it, don't have it in scene. And then there's one teacher I had that was like, if it's in the scene, have it. So again, I like, it goes back to your moment where you're like, I don't want to look green. I didn't want to look green. So then it was an awkward.
But like, we're in a different moment. Those people who are teaching you not to have props, I would take take everything they're saying with a grain of salt, because that's old school. It is very old school not to use a prop. It is very like, that's like you go into the room and you only use what you could have in your purse that day. Like that's so old school. They know we are filming in our fucking living rooms. They know that we are like using a reader from an online platform and they're on, like they're not in person. Like they know what we're doing. And if it serves the scene, use the prop as long as it doesn't, but you have to be comfortable with it and it has to serve your character and can't become the main event. Like if I'm going to hold my water cup and I'm going to sip it and then I'm going to put it down and then I'm going to sip it. And then like now the water cup is the main event. If you're like supposed to like choke on like a drink, like I don't know how you wouldn't do that without a cup because you're at home, you have a cup. Like you would do it in a casting office too, probably. Yeah, I'd say my thing is if it serves the project and serves the scene and I can use it without using it as a crutch. Like if it's not the thing that like makes me feel comfortable because I can do something with my hands, if it is part of the character and part of the story, hell yeah. Do you know how often I need to fill space so I take on and off jackets or I put stuff in a purse or I, am like pouring something into a bottle? Like I will use props all the time. There is a role I did that's going to come out later this year in a show on Fox, and it's a really weird show. And I used not just one cup, I used 4, and I used other people's hands. It's a whole show I put on, and it made sense for that project. I wouldn't do it for like a procedural, but this is a project about like aliens. So I did like some weird stuff. And I think if when something serves the story and the character versus when it doesn't, I think that we just have to trust ourselves more, because at the end of the day, if it looks good in your little frame, then that's going to be what counts. The casting director is never going to be like, fuck, Ashley is so perfect for this role, but she had a cup in her hand. Damn it. Throw her out, right? Like you have to like go to like start to get base level of like, these humans are looking for the perfect person for this role. And if I do a better audition when I am like typing on a computer and I can have a keyboard in my lap and type on it, then they're going to want me to type on a computer because it's going to do them more service to the story. So I'd say I'm a big fan of using stuff. I think you have to make it your own. I think as long as you're following the written directions, and not just, I don't mean the script, I mean like castings, like have your slate, then do a full body, then do a this, then do a that. Like if you're following their directions and it's your audition at the end of the day, and if it makes you feel better to do your things, do your things. Yeah.
Do your thing, Ashley.
Do it.
Yeah.
Right.
So how many takes do you usually do? Do you try to keep it to like a minimum, or do you just like
do I film or do I send?
Film. Like how many takes will you film before you just say that's it, I'm not doing anymore?
Depending on the piece, I can usually get it in 3. If it's super wordy and it's a little more like I have one this weekend that's like 4 or 5 pages and it needs to be a little more distinctive of a character. I need to do if I'm doing more than 4 takes, maybe, let's say it's a rough day. I also have dogs, there's barking. If I'm doing more than like 6 takes, then it means I wasn't ready to be filming that audition yet. That it means I needed more time in my process. I needed to work on my lines more. I needed to understand the story better. Like it should not take that long. Sometimes I do, when I film with my husband, he's a writer. And so he's really good at breaking down story, and he can say like, I think that on this line we could go, like he'll sometimes help coach me a little bit, which is nice. And so sometimes we'll do things differently. And so we'll do like 8 or 10 takes because we wanted to emphasize something differently. Like I had a 2-line co-star last week that I think we did like 10 takes of because he was like, I think we should try this. Okay, let's try this. And then we're trying things, which is fun, but I was prepared beforehand. So that I think is a huge difference. Like if you just don't know the material, that's different. But yeah, no, if it's more than a couple of lines, I will only send 1 take. If it's 5 or 6 pages, I'm not sending them a 5-minute video. They're never going to watch that. If it's 2 lines, I'll send 2 takes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Unless they write in it like 1 only of scene 1, 1 only of scene 2. Unless they're explicit about it, I have a no line co-star to film this weekend. So it's like an improv scene. I'll send 2 different versions. Yeah. in one file following their directions.
So what is your process to getting ready for an audition, whether it's like a self-tape or in the room?
Yeah, I haven't had an in-room audition since the end of 2019. So it's been a long time. So actually no longer, I'm freaked out by going back to those. I think it's going to be weird. I've had a couple offers to go in, but I've been out of town for almost all of them. So I haven't been able to, but it just depends on the project. So let's say this no line co-star I have this weekend. The second I got the project, I first like, let's go like really like molecular here. I confirm or deny with my reps so that way they know I'm doing it. Then I will take the project and I will read the sides. Well, I'm sorry, I'll skim the sides before I confirm because I want to be like, is there nudity? Is there violence? Like I want to confirm that I'm okay with the piece. Mm-hmm. Then I confirm with my reps. Then I'll dive a little bit deeper and then I'll start my research on the project. The term research sounds like I'm going to the library and I'm like pulling out microfiche, but like I'm actually just Googling it. Like, I think people take that so seriously. Like, she does her research. No, like we just Google. It's really, really easy. So I looked up the project and I read the articles I can find about it, about people who are involved, and if there's anything weird I need to know about it. And I try to find who I'm reading with for the scene. So if that role's already cast, who I'm actually going up against, because that changes the cadence, I think, of something. If it's a show that's already in existence, it's so much easier because you can just watch it, and which is really nice. I think you should always watch the most recent episodes of something because the tone of something from season 1 to season 7 can be totally different. So you want to be auditioning for the show that's actually currently being made. If it's not a show that it's existence, which is almost all of the auditions I have this weekend, I'm just going to have to do my research and make really qualified guesses. This is when it helps to have a community because to figure out the tone of a show that doesn't exist yet, you can do your best to study the players involved and the pieces and like any articles you can find about it. But sometimes it's going to be real fucking different. Like I had auditions last year for pilots that are coming out now, and I'm like, oh, I did a dramatic, and this is a dark comedy. I did not do this at all. So you can do your best when you have a community to lean on. I can ask people, hey, has anybody read for this show? What type of feedback did you get, if any? Do you know anything more about a project? The cool thing about being in LA for longer and longer is that I have friends who are auditioning for big, important roles. And so there's a chance if I have an audition for a co-star in the pilot of something, that one of my friends has been auditioned for the lead. So they can tell me more because they'll have more information. So that's really nice to have a community of people you can lead on for these things. If it requires coaching, I'll book a coaching session and then I'll look at my calendar and decide like when I want to film it, how I want to film it. Do I want to use my husband to read for me or do I want to tag someone else in? One of the scenes I have this weekend is a white woman talking about the police to a Black female lawyer. And that to me, I don't want to film that with Caleb. I want to tag in one of my BIPOC actor friends and I want them to read with me because I think that changes the cadence of the way I talk about the police in front of them. So to me, that's important. So I will book out my time and then I'll move things around as needed. Like I was supposed to go to a basketball game tonight. I'm not going because I have 3 auditions to work on and I would like peace and I have a hair mask in right now. So then from there, once I have ample research and I have my time scheduled out, I will then start working on the project, meaning breaking down the script, figuring out what my place is in the story, running the lines. If there's no lines, figuring out what I can add to the project, what I want to bring to it. If it's, I mean, most of co-stars aren't about you. They're about the other people in the scene. So how can you serve their story better? And then I'll figure out wardrobe, which is super fun part. I highly recommend having friends with bigger closets than you. It's really nice. So I'll often need to text someone and borrow like a 1970s dress or something. And I'll figure out my clothing. I'll figure out what I'm going to do for my hair and makeup. Sometimes I get to do fun stuff. Like one of my auditions this weekend is period. So I get to like go on YouTube and find a hairstyle. And these are the fun ones, right? And I try to get as into it as possible because this is our whole job. Like our whole job is going to be auditioning for projects that we like 90%, 95% of shit is not going to be for us. So I might as well make it as fun as possible for me if I'm going to spend my whole weekend working on it. So, I'll figure all that stuff out. And then when it comes to actually taping, by then, hopefully I have enough pieces in place that I can get it in, 30, 45 minutes. Yeah. That was very detailed. Was that okay?
No, that's perfect. I mean, it's perfect because we're going to have people who are just now getting into the industry and they've not had any experience. And then people who maybe have been in for a while, and it's good for them to hear like a fresh spin on it, or, you know, how someone else approaches it. I mean, it's really good information.
Everyone's different, right? Like some people would be like, oh my God, you research before you like barely read the sides. Like, and you know, some people literally find wardrobe first, like that's their first thing. And that gives them inspiration to figure out the scene. Like you know, everyone's process is different. And that's kind of, you know, some scenes I'm like, we can do this right now. Like, it's like girl on a boat in a bathing suit saying hi. Like, I'm like, let's back it up. Let's do it right now. Like, we don't need to like belabor it. Sometimes I don't like when you have a lot of time to work on something because it's like, I could really make a meal out of these 4 lines. I really don't want to. It's really not about that.
But I think it's good too how you embrace the self-tapes, because I think a lot of people they get wary of them or they're nervous about making them, but you were like, have fun with it. You know, this is your job. You know, this is part of your job. Like if you're gonna be like a 70s disco queen, do it.
Yeah. And you know, I went into rooms for like 8 years. Right. And every time I was in a room, I was like, man, I wish I could double check like my lipstick before they turned on the camera. I wish I could make sure that like, this is like the angle, cause I don't know what their framing is. And even when I ask, they're like, oh, it's like a mid. And I'm like, all right, but like, is it mid to here or is it mid to here? You know? And so now like I can do it all and I can see it all. And now it's like, oh, I get to present exactly what I want. And sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. It's, you know, everything's different.
So, and leading into that, kind of like back to your podcast, I noticed how you had the working actor workshop. Is that something that you're still doing? Did you like, how did that come about? Were you just like wanting to help people more through, than like with the One Broke Actress?
Yeah, I really wanted to give people more time and a concise, list of ideas of what I think it means to be a working actor and how you go from, I think I want to work in acting to actually living that lifestyle. And there was a lot of gaps and holes in the process. And also I was like, I could charge money for this because this is a lot of information. It's 2 days that are both 3-hour classes. And I thought, well, if I also put a dollar amount on it, people show up differently. People show up more. If I was like, it's a free training, people would be like, this is mediocre. You put a dollar amount on it, I work harder for those classes and they show up differently. And I got to tell you, I've had very little, I think none. I don't think I've had a single negative review with people who've taken it now. And to me, it's the class that I wish I would have taken when I got to Los Angeles. It's everything that I wish I would have been told when I moved here. And it's not just for LA, it's for any big market, but it's basically start to finish how you get to a working actor lifestyle. And we talk about finances, which I think no one tells you about. Like, we break down what a really good year as an actor looks like with like 5 or 6 bookings. And then I say how much money that actually is, and then how much it costs to live in a major city. And you see very quickly that you do need a job and you need a sustainable lifestyle, and like the series of events that I recommend people do things in, as well as, you know, how to network in a city that feels impossible, even when you're really young, or when you feel like you're too old for the business, like, and how to actually sign with a rep, and how to live a lifestyle that is also being a mom or being a friend or being a wife or being whatever it is. It's like such a balance, and how I think that's actually doable. And we cover everything with ample time for question and answer, because that was a big thing for me. I wanted to be so suitable for anyone's needs. And I think I love teaching it. And there's one coming up in March, and that one's sold out currently, but then there's also dates in June and October already released, because I wanted people to sign up when they wanted to. And I made the payment plan the exact same price as the full price class, because I don't think you should be penalized for wanting to spread out the cost of something. Especially for people who don't make a shit ton of money. And when we do, we get it in weird spurts. And I want to encourage people to ease their financial burden. So yeah, and I'm the first person to tell someone like, this isn't right for you. This is right for you. Like, send me an email and I'll tell you if it's good for you or not. And I absolutely love teaching it. It's my favorite weekend every time it comes around.
And do you have a website? Is there a website for it, or do they access the information through your Instagram?
Both work. It's just onebrokeactress.com. It's getting a full revamp right now, which is exciting, but it's still, the pages are all still there. And so the workshop page is where you can join any of the payment plans or any of the wait lists for anything that fills up. Yeah.
Awesome. I think that's great because you touched on it. I remember one interview we did and we were like, because we're going to ask you, what's your best piece of advice? And I can't remember who it was, but they were like, taxes. Learn about taxes. Like that was their most important piece of advice for people in this industry. And I was like, I mean, it makes sense because it's things that just aren't talked about. So yeah, when we saw your workshop, I was like, this looks like a really good workshop because it's like all encompassing. It's not just the acting part, it is the lifestyle part of it.
Yeah, because I think that it's, your lifestyle informs your acting. Like if you're running around to 5 or 6 jobs, what I was doing before the pandemic hit, you and barely sleeping and can't take care of yourself and all these things, you are not going to up your actor game. You're not going to find representation when you're running around like a chicken with its head cut off. Maybe you will. Maybe you fall into a situation, but you're not going to be able to maintain it for the next 20, 40, 60 years.
Mm-hmm. So in leading up onto that, before we ask for your, advice for actors, what is the worst advice you have heard an actor being given where you're just like, no, or maybe like this misconception that you just wish would stop?
I think the worst advice that I see actors getting or taking is that one person has the answers. I think the guru mentality of a lot of acting classes or acting cultures that get popped up of like, this is the way, to me is total trash because there is no one way. I even say at my working actor workshop, I'm like, listen, everything I tell you is based off of my experiences and the experiences of the people I interview, but mostly it's ish, right? You might be an exception to any rule. Something might change, something might be different for you. But when you go to an acting class and the teacher is like this guru that we put on a silver platter and we're just trying to do work to please them, it's like, that's not the business we're in. There's not one person who decides if you get one of 57 different jobs. And it's, saying that like any one acting thing is like the way, like everyone should be Meisner, everyone should be Stanislavski, everyone should be Method. It's like, no, what works for you, what brings out your best performance and also makes you a sustainable actor long term. That's my problem, is that these things might work in a nutshell, or they might work for a project. You might be able to book a movie where you can be Method and it can be groundbreaking. But then there's another movie where you're a completely different character and you're going to try and use the same like types of methods, and it's going to fuck with you and it's going to fuck with the set and it's going to put them behind and it's going to like ruin people's days. And is that worth your mental health for the next like 6 months? I think there's no one correct way to be an actor. And anyone who's telling you that here's my $10,000 class, take it and you'll be famous, like, run.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, and you're right. There are a lot of scams out there. And I think that was one question that we had talked about before. Just how do you know what a quality class is? Because there are so many out there, especially people just getting into the industry. It's just overwhelming.
Yeah. And you're going to take some that end up being shitty. You kind of just have to accept the fact that you're going to have to rake through the mud for a little bit. Talking to people who've taken the class is always good. Talking to a community of people. There's the part of the thing I teach in the working actor workshop is some red flags about acting classes, and that guru mentality is one of them to me. You can also audit classes a lot. You can see what they're like on the inside. I think it's really important to decide what type of class you're looking for and make it specific to the time and the season that you're in. If you're brand new to LA, I think learning to act on camera is really important. I think that's something you're trying to do. And for example, I had theater training. I didn't know how to act on camera. I needed a lot of help. And that should have been my first focus. And then once you figure that out, if you want to take an auditions class or something like that, right? Like we don't all need to be in 700 classes at the same time. And you can kind of suss out like, this class seems too good to be true. They seem to be telling me if I take it, I'll book 5 national commercials. And it's like, no, everything's actor dependent, like no promises. That to me is like, ugh. And talk to, you can tell a lot by their social media, I think too, like what kind of vibe they go for, what kind of stuff they share. The students who are like actively commenting and talking about their classes, I think that's always a really good thing. And they should be using relevant material. if that's something you're working on, like that's really important to me as well.
Yeah, those are great tips. So what would be the 3 words that you would use to describe your career or journey thus far, and that one piece of advice that you want to give actors, whether they're new or experienced?
My career has been wild, quiet, and playful. I think those really encompass the different moments. I think it's been wild because I never thought it would look like this. I cannot believe I run an entire platform called a broke actor. I cannot believe that that is the thing that I do and I get so much joy from. I also can't believe that I have friends who are major casting directors, major agents and managers because I run an online platform. I cannot believe this is my in. I cannot believe this is what I'm doing. This is probably going to be a title of a book one day. Like I cannot, it's so funny to me. I think it's quiet because I think that a lot of us work in silence. I think we assume that if actors aren't main staging something big or on billboards, that we're like, what have they been up to lately? Are they even doing anything? And there's so much work that we don't see that people are doing on the back end. And I think that's so much of what I'm in right now is I feel quiet, but I know inside that I'm so going to be so loud so soon. And the last one would be playful because I really do love this job. I love it so much. And I think it is so fun and it's so stupid that we get paid money to do this shit. It is so crazy that like it's the same with like someone who plays football or basketball or something. Like the thing that you enjoy the most is your job. That's crazy. That's so crazy. I feel like we weren't raised, as a millennial, my parents didn't, the thing they loved to do the most wasn't their job. That was like, this is like a new concept. So I just think it's so fun. And I just love to like put on an outfit and be a person and play with and meet new people. And like, it's just like going to a new school every time. I love it. I think it's so playful. And then my piece of advice that I think everyone should hear multiple times a day, especially in this business, is that no one's thinking about you as often as you're thinking about you. And this can go both ways. I have actors who are so stressed because they made one mistake in an audition and they know that everyone saw it and da da da. And I'm like, you guys, this casting director has already moved on. They don't have time to lament over you. You have time to lament over you because you are you and you're stuck with you. But no one is thinking about you as much as you're thinking about you. The same goes with being in the zeitgeist. If you've met a casting director of a show because you did a workshop with them 6 years ago, they're not like, man, I wonder where that Sam girl is from that workshop right now. Wow, I've been thinking about her always. No, they have a life and kids and like a weekend and a vacation and also all their job shit. And also, like, everyone has so much going on. And I think it's where too we get a little performative on social media because we're like, what if they remember that one day I had a bad day and they'll think I can't do Disney? No one's thinking so hard about you. And so reach out to people, be in their general zeitgeist. Don't ask of them, give to them. But, you have to like take yourself out of yourself. And sometimes for this business, that means doing things that have nothing to do with you, like volunteering or giving away some of your time to someone or donating some money quietly or things like that, because you have to get outside of yourself because we're our own little capsule of entrepreneurship. It's like I have a friend who runs a business and when she leaves her laptop, she's not working anymore. I, walk around my house and go to the kitchen and I'm like, if this was a scene, would I reach into the microwave first or would I grab the cup? Like things, I'm in my body. So I am my business all of the time. And it's a weird thing to do. So if you can get outside of yourself in any way, shape or form and remember that nobody's thinking about you as much as you're thinking about you, I think that's a really, really great place to be and remind yourself of.
Great advice. So is there anything you're working on right now or about to be working on? I mean, I did look at your IMDb and I was like, there's a show and I love that show. I was like, oh my gosh. Like, and I told them, I'm like, you guys have not seen Bosch yet. It is such a good show.
Yeah, and they just named it too. I have a couple episodes of the new Bosch Legacy, which is the spinoff of the original show. And I listen, I might be cut out of the show. I have no idea, right? I have no idea. I have a recurring role. I filmed at least 3 episodes, so we'll see what makes it to air. It was a really amazing experience. They were phenomenal. It's like my family's favorite show. So it was really, really special. But yeah, that should be coming out later, as well as I have a couple co-star things that I filmed last year that should be coming out soon. And One Broke Actress is getting a remodel, which is really exciting to me. I'm getting a whole rebrand and working with a designer. And also, as my day job, I produce podcasts, and I'm launching next week. Is the culmination of like a year's worth of work. In my partner and I, Ashley, are launching Fast Forward Productions, which will be a podcasting media service. So, yeah. Our tagline is "The women are speaking," because we are a female forward podcasting.
Yeah.
We feel like there is, Barstool Sports and Dear Media and all these people who make famous people podcasts, and we want to make everyone people podcasts. So,
yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So lots going on.
That's exciting. So will that have its own Instagram account? Like how will we find
that's The Women Are Speaking is the Instagram account. And then fastforwardproduction.com will be the website when it, oh my God, the 22nd. That's in like 2 days.
Isn't it crazy how things just evolve? Like you just never know what's going to come out of what you're doing. And the next thing you're like, how did I get here? Like, this is awesome, but how did we get here?
Totally. That's literally our life.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
I honestly think when people say, tell me or us, because I know Heather and Kira now, when they tell us like not to do something or like, no, you can't do that. We're like, okay, well, you can hold our beer and I'm going to go and I'm going to go do this now. Yep. But yeah, that's awesome. I can't wait. So you said it launches on the 22nd?
Yeah. It officially launches on the 22nd, which is exciting. We have like 4 or 5 beta clients currently, and it's cool because that's my job. So if I'm not working on acting stuff, I'm working on One Broke Actress, which is my first baby. And now my new baby is this podcasting production company. So, and it's flexible around my acting career. Because I used to think, 10 years ago, if someone was like, I'm starting a production company for podcasts, I would have thought, well, 1, I would have said, what the fuck is a podcast? But 2, I would have been like, oh, so they quit acting. And, I think, right. And it's so funny how far we've come that I can't tell you how much having financial stability in my day job and having it be flexible and something I actually enjoy doing has like fueled my career so much more. Cause I don't need to book the job. I would like to book the job, but I don't need it to buy my cricket protein next week.
I'm going to like find them. And then I just want to like add them in and see if they notice, like be like, will you be our first sponsor?
I feel like a good brand partnership would be the cricket protein with the tequila lollipops that had the worm in the middle. Do you remember those? Am I aging myself at this moment?
No. I know exactly what you're talking about. The worm thing is so gross, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
It goes together. Like, let's drink our cricket smoothie and I'll lick my tequila pop with the worm.
Yeah, there we go.
Weirdos. Right. So what is the mission statement for the podcast production company? Is that to help people who are just starting out, and then you're going to take and direct them in a certain way? Or, I mean, the production side of it, is that just the editing side of it or the marketing side of it? Or how involved do you plan on getting?
Yeah, so we can do both. I think a lot of our audience, a lot of our ideal customers already have podcasts in place. And we are taking all of the stuff that have made them want to throw in the towel and quit doing it and taking on the workload. Meaning,
like you're speaking to your audience.
Yeah,
not that we want to throw in the towel.
It's like when you get to the point where you're like, I am exhausted and this feels like too much work, especially to get to the next level of where I want to go. So we will be taking on the editing, but we'll also be sitting down with you every about like 6 to 8 weeks and saying like, hey, let's plan your next few weeks of content so we can stay 2 weeks ahead. We take care of show notes and all the SEO on the back end, and as well as just like keeping you up to date on if possible sponsorships and all of that good stuff and the oversight of the whole thing. So then you get like analytics and all that good stuff. So we're trying to make it so our hosts record their podcasts and then go back to work, because you guys all know how complicated it is to have a podcast, and people think like, this is the fun part. And yeah, this is cool. In fact, I love doing other people's podcasts because I'm like, cool, I'm done after this. Don't have to download files. Don't have to do any social media, to do any SEO, show notes, anything like that. And so taking that part away from people and doing all the editing and doing all the posting and all that stuff is something I like to do for, you get tired of your own shit, but you always want to do other people's, like when you go to someone else's house and you'll do their dishes.
Yeah.
So that's how I feel about it. And it's awesome. I've been doing it now independently for like 8 or 9 months. And so now the company is launching and we'll have multiple names under our umbrella. So I'm so excited. I'm so excited. It's a skill I developed without having to go to school. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to have a college degree in something anymore to have a job outside of whatever your main creative focus is. It's so nice. I love it very, very much.
Well done for turning something that you're passionate about and you're good at into a business, because that's a dream, isn't it, for everybody?
Yeah.
Find something you love and learn how to make money out of it.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I told my son. He'll be 19 in 2 months. And that was my thing. Like with him growing up, I would always say to him, find a way to make money doing what you love and you're never going to work. Like it's not going to be a job to you because it's just going to be your passion. Just figure out how to get paid for what you love doing.
Totally. It's the best. I feel like sometimes I'm cheating the system because I was like, I guess I worked today. I got a treadmill over there. I got like a walking desk on top of it. I just like edit while I walk.
I mean, we've not figured out how to make money yet, but we really like talking. So
that's it.
I feel that we're halfway there.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on today. Obviously your Saturday was really booked, so we really appreciate you giving us some time. And we would love to obviously have you on in the future as well to kind of see where you're doing.
You guys, this has been so lovely. Thank you so much for having me.
You're more than welcome.
Thank you for coming on.
Yes.